Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is the 10th day of February, a Thursday, the 10th day of February, 2022. It is the Thursday in the fifth week in Ordinary Time, fifth week of the year, but also today we remember the memorial of St. Scholastica. St. Scholastica was the sister of St. Benedict of Nursia, the great founder of the monastic movement in about the 600s that began again to reshape a way of trying to understand what it meant to live a Christian life, to live a life dedicated to God, to Christ alone. Benedict founds community for men and develops monasticism in the way he does. Scholastica, his sister, also founds a community for women and develops monasticism for women in a similar fashion. The sense of prayer and good works and being able to live together as a community and understand what it means to live in that regard. Always important to know that Francis did not follow this design. Francis's design was very, very different. That's why it was radical when he established the Franciscan movement. It was not to be monastic in any way. It was meant to be something totally different. But remember today, Scholastica, again, the great story where she, and I believe yes, it was her, but there's kind of similarities with Claire and Francis too, where she and her brother were visiting. Her brother was visiting her, Benedict, at her monastery, and she so enjoyed his company and loved her brother so much that she didn't want him to leave when it was time to go. And so she prays for a tremendous rainstorm to happen or something like that. And Benedict and his friends who came with him had to end up staying the night at the monastery. And throughout the night, he and Scholastica talked great spiritual things, which I guess is a great thing to do if you're Benedict and Scholastica and it's raining outside. So we remember all Benedictine women today, remember the contributions that they have and continue to make to the church and into the embrace of faith in practical and dynamic ways. Coming to you from the Columarium today, just another little kind of difference here. The readings today, we continue from the book of Kings, still in the book of Kings. This is where, though, Solomon and his wisdom can only go so far. And there's a great disappointment that Solomon has unfortunately put forth before God, and that is the fact that Solomon had many wives. Again, that's what you did. You had many wives, and many of them did not always take to Judaism. And so they brought with them their own gods and goddesses, their own devotions, their own religious practices, and Solomon allows this. And God is not really happy with that because Solomon begins to set up all kinds of shrines to all kinds of other gods and goddesses. And again, the God of Israel, who is a jealous God, as the God of Israel says, does not appreciate this, and basically believes that Solomon has negated the covenant, although God basically says, and your father kept it. However, David kept it to an extent, and again, the whole killing of Uriah and taking Bathsheba, that wasn't a part of the covenant. But anyway, God sees what God sees at times, and so he punishes Solomon. So again, this is where Solomon's wisdom doesn't really pay off the way that it probably could have. And again, how we can sometimes abuse and manipulate wisdom into ends that aren't necessarily for the best for us or for those we care about. And so God says he's going to punish not Solomon, but his heirs, which is, again, very odd of God to do that. And there is foreshadowing of the division of the kingdom of Israel into a northern half and a southern half. And the southern half will be the kingdom of Judah, and there's mention made of one tribe that will populate the southern kingdom, but it's not just Judah, it's also the tribe of Benjamin. But Benjamin is such a small tribe that it kind of gets absorbed into Judah. The other tribes are the northern tribes. They become the 10 tribes, the 10 lost tribes of Israel, and they go into oblivion in exile in Assyria once Assyria conquers the northern kingdom in a couple of centuries. So lots of sadness. This whole idea about kings isn't working out, and yet God, is not going to cause an end to that. The people of Israel have to recognize that this is not what's good for them and not what they want. In a contrast to all of this in the gospel, there is the Syrophoenician woman who uses her wisdom in a very powerful, dynamic, and fruitful way. Again, she's not a Jew, but yet she knows that Jesus, this ambassador of the Jews, this miracle worker of the Jews, can heal her daughter who is possessed by a demon, that she says, or something like that. And so, and she asks Jesus for that. And again, Jesus' response to this woman is the most insulting statement that Jesus makes throughout the entire Gospels. That I'm here for the Jewish, my Jewish brothers and sisters, and you're a dog, and you shouldn't even, get anything because you're a dog. And the Syrophoenician woman responds, with, well, even the dogs get the scraps that fall from the table. Again, this powerful statement that she stands up to Christ and basically lets him know that maybe his way of thinking is not the best. And many people try to spiritualize this and rationalize this so Jesus looks perfect, but again, it's important to remember that, again, the strength, as St. Paul says, the strength of faith is made perfect in weakness. It's made perfect in imperfection. It's made perfect perhaps in learning what we need to learn, and even Jesus needs to learn something about what it means, to be a part of this great dynamic relationship that is the proclamation of the reign of God in our midst. Jesus is able to do this because the Syrophoenician woman, calls him to task and asks him to remember, perhaps in an even broader way, of what it means to be the Savior, what it means to be the Messiah. Because of her wisdom and because of her faith and what Christ can do, her daughter is freed from this demon or whatever malady she was experiencing, and it was her act of faith that enables that to happen. In our own way, to be able to use wisdom and faith together is how we give witness to the world of the power of God in our midst, in recognizing in our midst what it is that God can do. And may the Lord give you his peace.